Hi guys, sorry we're having so much technical difficulties today. I am waiting for our co-host, but if you are live with us here today, please hashtag live. If you're joining us later, please comment hashtag replay, and remember to just comment and follow and all of the good things to make sure that this is staying relevant. We appreciate it, and we appreciate all of y'all that are joining us each week for this series. Happy Wednesday. It's a little chilly today, which I mean for February is not surprising, but considering the weather has been so great, it's a little chilly today. Okay, I'm sending you an invite.
Hey,
Sean.
hey, there we go. It finally just popped up and offered to join.
Yeah. Yeah, I do
Perfect.
think that there's something to do with cell phone versus computer. I don't know, but
Got that. Here, let me try to prop this up over here somewhere.
okay.
Let's see. That'll do. That'll do.
Great. Well, welcome, Sean, and everybody. My name is Cherie. I'm with Messina Inn in Wimberley, Texas. I have been in the hospitality industry for over 10 years and have been the venue manager and wedding coordinator at Messina Inn since we opened in 2017. We are doing a Facebook Live series about planning a Texas Hill Country wedding. We're going over all things from selecting your venue, photography, planners, florals, and this week is our DJ and entertainment edition. Today we have Sean with Complete Weddings and Events to give us the scoop on selecting DJ. So welcome, Sean. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So my name's Sean Connerly. I'm the general manager with Complete Weddings and Events. We do a bunch of different services, but DJ is kind of one of our primary things. I have been with the company for about a decade. Personally, DJ'd, I can't even tell you how many weddings. It's in the hundreds. This has sort of been a passion for me for a long time. So I know getting to work with vendors like Cherie is just really, really great. We love working with Messina Inn.
Yeah, we love having you guys. They are a part of our all-inclusive package. So they must have done something right. Um, well, just to take care of some necessary things for those of you who are tracking budget, the average wedding in Texas is 30,000, and for DJ we have budgeted 1,500, which does fit into one of Complete's packages for DJ services. So I think that I want to start off by just why you hire a DJ.
Yeah. So one of the big things that a DJ does, obviously, they're queuing up the music, they're making some announcements, but really they are there to help facilitate and create moments and memories for the couple and their guests. We're an auxiliary role for basically everybody, kind of helping be the grease between the wheels to make sure everything flows right. We really try to help make sure it's a seamless event, and create those moments where the ones that you think back when you remember your wedding day of like, yeah, oh, that was such an amazing time. That's the stuff that we're trying to aim to create for you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that, you can't have a wedding without music,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
you need somebody to facilitate that. And so all those memories that tie to those songs and different things. So yeah, um, that's a great reason to hire a DJ. So I think that I hear a lot from couples, I think predominantly we're talking DJ, but there are times when there are couples who are thinking about a band.
Hmm.
So I kind of want to just get people to wrap their brains around the differences and the ups and the downs and all of that of bands, DJs, or maybe even a mix of the two.
Yeah. So I mean, you've really got, pros and cons to both for what you could be looking for. So, one of the big immediate things for a band that people are always excited about is it's live music. Who doesn't enjoy some live music? There's just sort of like a natural energy to a band performing live. The sort of caveat there is it's always going to be that band. So you're never going to hear the original rendition of the song. It's always a cover. Plenty of bands do great covers, but it might not hit that exact sort of like emotional note for like that really special song that you want to hear. And then also, a lot of bands they're there for really the music value. They don't necessarily work so much as MCs. They may make some announcements, but they're not, going kind of walking between all the vendors, kind of checking in on things because they're kind of stuck performing the whole time. So they can't really go walk and go interact with other people, make sure the camera people are in place and, kind of help, grab an extra chair or something like that, whatever sort of needed. So they're a little limited. They can't really do the MC thing quite the same way that a DJ, entertainer can really do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and then we see a lot of kind of mixtures of DJs and live elements, whether that be like a string quartet or a piano or live band for the cocktail hour.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes we see a lot of DJs working with live elements.
Yeah. So that's really, really not uncommon at all. Especially for the ceremony, because a lot of times, couples may opt to have that string quartet or, a guitar player, pianist, harpist, or something like that, just doing the music for the ceremony. But then the DJ being the one who runs all the audio, for the microphones and everything. And sometimes, like I was just saying, with having that specific recorded version of the song, sometimes that has a lot of sentimental value. And we've done it before where they're doing all the music before, but then, we play the one track for the bride to walk down or something like that. And then, they kind of fill in all the rest of the blanks. So it's really sort of a mix and match. But, a lot of the live musicians, their setups don't really accommodate the microphones and the live audio aspect that you really need for those ceremonies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And they're not prepared to go up there and be like, can I get everybody seated for this? Things like that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
it's a lot harder to walk away when you're playing an instrument.
yeah.
We're able to like, okay, cool. The track is going. We know we have another one coming up. We can go step away for a second, make sure that this moment is set up and ready to go,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, they can't leave their spot when they're live.
Yeah, it's a lot harder. And I say that as also a musician. That's just, you can't take your instrument and go walk out and take care of something.
Yeah. So hi Eric, thanks for watching. So we're gonna talk a little bit about selecting music. I think we have couples that I know I have seen it. I'm sure 100% sure you've seen it, but we have a lot of different couples. So we have couples that are like they have every song planned down to each thing. Hi Jade. And then we have some that might be choose just a few key songs, and then I see it all the time, like where I'm trying to figure out a song to walk with my dad or whatever. So how is your DJ able to help you kind of guide you through that process?
Yeah. So, I mean, like you just said, we get anything, both ends of the spectrum and everything in between of how selective couples want to be versus how much they just like, yeah, play some fun music, And so it's really like if you have a very, very specific vision and like playlists and stuff already in your mind, perfect. We will help you bring that to vision. If you're just like, hey, I like this kind of music, great. We have, any DJ worth their salt has the experience and knowledge to be able to fill in those gaps for you. So we're like, cool, you like this artist? Well, here are some other kind of similar artists, similar vibe, type of music that you and your crowd will respond to as well. And, a DJ who's been around for a little while has sort of a mental back catalog of the stuff that generally works with most crowds. And then we kind of just tailor it to, the specific couples and the crowd on the day of. People watching and kind of reading the crowd's a big part of it too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We've had full-on dance parties, right, where everybody's out on the dance floor, and then we've had weddings where there's almost nobody, and so and that could just be that these people are not dancers, right? But hopefully you can find one or two songs that at least even the people who are not dancers are going to still enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, our priority is to make sure that our couple and their guests had a great time.
Right.
I have had a wedding before where, as the DJ, I was like, man, these people are just not big dancers. Maybe get them for some, but then at the end of the night, they come up like, oh my gosh, thank you. This was such an amazing time. We couldn't ask for a better experience. Just as a DJ, I'm like, oh, all right, well, okay, cool. Glad to hear that. I did a good job. So every crowd, every couple is different. And we use that experience that we have, to consider that, tailor things ahead of time with the playlist, make sure we have all the good stuff that they need. And again, like I said, fill in the blanks. So if they're like, yeah, I don't know what song to walk down the aisle to, we can tell you what's popular, we can make some recommendations and kind of let couples figure stuff out too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's super helpful, I know, especially for those couples that just don't have a clue. So y'all are much more in the music than the choreographer or the, photographer. So
it's like we talked about the other day, few people know how to plan for a wedding until they're actually doing it. So being a little on the clueless side is okay. That's totally normal. That's why we're here.
That's why we're here. And that's one of the reasons we're doing this live series is so that we can help you guys. We hope that you haven't done this 500 times before. We hope that this is your first time and that you need the guidance. And so that's why we're trying to create this opportunity for you to get some help with that. So we've touched on emceeing a little bit here and there, but I'd love to just kind of really hone in on, the perks, I guess, of emceeing and what all that entails, because I feel like that's something that a lot of couples don't think about when they're thinking about their DJ.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to the MC side, because of course, we're playing the music, trying to get people, having a good time through the music and everything. But on the MC side, so it's got two aspects. The sort of like helping with the flow and, kind of that auxiliary coordination role. We're making the announcements, we're making sure people know what's going on, kind of instructing people what to do. And then also the entertainment side of it. So, we're kind of like, hey, what's up? Come on out and dance, kind of doing some things to get people a little bit involved when they may be, kind of in that wallflower mode a little bit, So, yeah. So, I like to think of it like, especially when it comes to like, hey, all right, so bouquet toss. A lot of the guests, this sort of experience from the guest side is like, okay, yeah, we're hanging out, listening to some nice music, chit-chatting. You're like, oh, okay, the guy just said it's time for the bouquet toss. Great. Up there's the bouquet toss. How fun. What they don't see is that 10, 15 minutes prior to that announcement, we're all, walking around like, hey, cool, do we have the bouquet ready? Camera people, where do you want them to stand for the best angle for this? Okay, great. Do we have the bouquet is ready? All right, everybody's in place. Cool. Are we right with the timeline? There's all these different moving parts that the vendors sort of kind of do behind the scenes. It's almost like a stage production where, we've got all this stuff going on, and then at that announcement is like the director saying, all right, action. Now let's go. Right. And then everyone just kind of sees the play, the sort of the show, but we're all the stage hands in the back making it happen.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So thanks, Jay, for sharing all the information. Yeah, Jay. Hi, Jay. Thank you again, everybody who's watching with us live. So we kind of talked about that a lot of couples don't think about the emceeing part, but I also feel like there's a lot of services that your DJ can provide that just beyond the music aspect. So you want to talk about that a little bit, Sean?
Yeah. So of course, the music and entertainment value is always, kind of at the forefront when people think of a DJ. But there are, small things that DJs can do to sort of kind of enhance that experience, whether it's stuff sort of on the overall, elevating the production of the show and also just kind of making your life easier on the planning process. Stuff to kind of, bring up that wow factor, the extra lighting, like up lights, monogram lights, cold sparks, dancing on a cloud, all that kind of stuff. Having microphones for the speeches and stuff all kind of helps facilitate making sure that those special moments happen, like I was saying. And then with the planning, being sort of a wingman for the timeline, because we're working with, like I've been saying, we're working with Cherie with that timeline and everything. We're working with you guys, kind of talking about the different order of events. Here to make recommendations. But okay, hey, so you want to do the, X, Y, and Z activities. Well, here's sort of the best order that we've seen those happen in, and here's why. Here's kind of why they flow together really well in this sort of order. Like, okay, end of dinner, let's go ahead, we'll have a cake cutting, so that way right after the cake cutting we'll have some toast, and that way the cake's getting all cut up and ready to serve while we have the speeches going on, and by the end of the speeches all the cake's ready to go to be served out to people. So little things like that, you can kind of mix and match in different ways, and we can kind of tell you the pros and cons of how to really put those things together.
Yeah. That covers so much more than just music. And I feel like some couples just really don't, like I said, they just don't know that that's an option. Lighting and is really creates an ambiance, and if you're not like in a ballroom in a hotel, you probably don't have the options built in to change out lighting. And so that is one of my favorite things about you guys is, I mean, in addition to the DJing, but is the uplighting and just all the cool things you can do with it. You can uplight every tree, you can uplight just certain things, and then we're working on that package to create that package right now where we're going to offer the cold sparks and we're going to offer the dancing on a cloud and the monogram and things like that. So be looking for that, guys, if you're looking at Messina Inn. But so I think the one thing that we haven't talked about yet is how should they go about selecting a DJ, because we all know that there's a million DJs out there, just like there's a million everything out there. So how would you think that they would need to, like, some tips for selecting that?
Yeah. So one of the first things to do is, regardless of what individual or company that you are looking at, make sure they have a website, make sure they have accessible reviews and a good number of them, a good sample size. Make sure they have some sort of online presence in social media, something to sort of add that legitimacy, because you want to make sure, like, hey, this isn't just some fly-by-night operation that, because I mean, when you're going to book stuff for your wedding, a lot of times, you could be 8 months, a year plus out. You want to make sure that that company has been around for a while and they're still going to be around come your wedding day. So you want to make sure that they have really that sort of legitimate presence out there in the public, and that, they're very well received and reviewed too.
Yeah. And then I do think that there's, some vendors in this market, right, that are solo operations and multi operations. And that just means that like it's not just, one DJ, it's multiple, or it's not just one photographer, they have a whole team or whatever that is. So what would be like some pros and cons? I think I see that more in DJs than any other vendor. So what are some pros and cons of having solo versus multi?
Yeah. So we'll start with like in the solo operation. Um, so one of the big pros there is a lot of times you're booking a like, hey, I'm going for, you know, DJ DJ Fun, I don't know, whatever the DJ name is. I'm booking this one specific guy or girl, that, this person who I know, like I'm interviewing them, booking them. That's going to be the person day of. So that's obviously like cool. If having that specific relationship is like super important to you, then that's a big pro right there.
Right.
The only con is if DJ Fun has, a family emergency or gets sick or something happens and they're unable to perform, then you're kind of just out of luck and they're going to have to refer you to someone else. A lot of times, either another solo operator, and you sort of run that same risk there, or a multi-op that has, multiple people that they sort of rely on. So that kind of brings me to the multi-op side, which Complete isn't in the multi-op realm. We have a big team. So the big pro there is like, hey, you've got a whole team working at your back. Everyone who works with us is, vetted and experienced and, really good. And there is a person, there for backup, extra equipment, extra personnel. You're always going to have somebody experienced there to make sure that your day goes off well. The only con there is sometimes you don't get to know the DJ right out of the gate. So it's kind of, you want to sort of balance as a client, what's your big priorities there? What risks are you willing to take? So that's kind of in my opinion, sort of the solo versus multi sort of decision that every couple should sort of consider.
Yeah. And just to be clear, if you're going like with Complete, who's a multi-option, I can't speak for every multi-operation, but you're introduced to your DJ 30 days?
Yeah. So, from the point of okay, so just sort of like a very specific scenario for like Messina Inn and Complete working together. So like when someone books with Messina Inn through their inclusive package, and Cherie is like, hey, here we go. We have a client here. From that moment, they are in communication with me. I get in touch with them, get them logged into all the stuff they need for us. And then basically I'm a resource for them. So they have a face and a person to talk to out the get-go. And most multi-ops work like that. And then, closer to the date, around a month out, then they get sort of introduced to the specific person who's going to be working their wedding. And like for us, we match them up. It's like, hey, we have some profiles online. We take their requests of who they think would be a good match. And then we use the information they give us to kind of play matchmaker to be like, hey, cool. We know these DJs super well. We have all this information you gave us, and we kind of put these puzzle pieces together.
Yeah. Something that we did not talk about, but I just kind of want to point out for those in the planning process as of right now. A lot of times I hear from my couples, especially my all-inclusive couples, they're like, hey, I haven't heard from my DJ in a while. And it's like, well, okay, we're 90 days out. There's really so much evolving and changing in that just in 90 days prior that you don't need to be in contact with your specific DJ until about that 30-day mark. So I just say that because I want couples to know that like it's not uncommon to book and then talk to a vendor and then not talk to them until it gets much closer, because even for me, like when they're wanting to come out and do a layout 6 months in advance, I'm like, hey, I'm all for it, but just know like it's probably going to change 5 times between now and then. So
the weather forecast, that's something you don't know even until a little bit closer.
Right.
And, you start to get that timeline finalized. Like, okay, cool. Here's you start to, when you're at that, like you said, around the 90 days, you're like, all right, cool. We're sort of like now starting to actually finalize everything with the budget. So it's like, we know if we can or can't add these little extra things, and all of that might affect the timeline, and you're dealing with all these different vendors and the arrival times and all that stuff. So yeah, like I said, a lot of that kind of coalesce a little bit closer to the date.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the cool things about y'all's online planner too, is like you can go in and you can enter your songs and then you decide you're going to change it up until a certain point. I'm sure you'll have a cutoff for that, but so if you didn't want to forget the song that you selected, you could put that in there and then just go back and reference it later. But yeah. So we were just going to kind of do a summary of do's and don'ts when looking at your DJs and entertainment factors.
Oh, and I actually just thought of one more thing. Always make sure when you're shopping for a DJ, make sure that they have insurance. Make sure they are an insured LLC company, because you never want to have to deal with the repercussions of that not being the case and you wishing it was.
Mm-hmm. All vendors should be insured because you just never know what's going to happen.
And a lot of venues, I think Messina may be the same way in this, require that any vendors performing there do have their own, event liability insurance.
Yeah.
So the worst thing you want to do is book a vendor and then not be able to have them at your venue. So do the research ahead of time.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things where you need to know the specifics about your venue, because some venues are very, very strict on what vendors they will use. Sometimes you can only choose between 2 or 3 different vendors. Sometimes you have to have them be approved vendors. Sometimes, and that may just be like emailing them and you have to wait for them to respond. And sometimes venues are not always good at that. We get comments all the time about how we respond to people so quickly, but I hear it, that
y'all are awesome.
Couples are like, I haven't heard from them in a while and I emailed them 2 weeks ago. But yeah, so there is definitely a difference in your venues, and that is a very valid point. We want to make sure that all vendors are like legit businesses, so we don't want you to bring in a coordinator. I mean, probably the only one that we don't really require that is desserts, but just because if you have your aunt who wants to make all the brownies, I don't really care. That's special to your family, I don't want to impede on that. But yeah, I mean, you want to make sure it's viable, because that affects the overall night. How well your vendors perform, the way they handle situations and all that. So you want to make sure they're professional.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So again, just to recap everything, do's and don'ts. So do make sure that you're going to have an MC.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Even if you decide to go the live music route, really vet that live musician and make sure that is something that they can accommodate very well. And think about the mix. There are a lot of times where people may have, live musicians and DJs in tandem. That's always a really good approach, or just the DJ. DJ can cover the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Might be a little biased, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we've had both, and both are great. But I do think that the emceeing is the part that I think falls short when we do have live editions. Either the band is not prepared for that at all, or maybe you've thought of it and you're just going to have, somebody in your wedding do that, but now you're giving them a job.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of taken away from their experience too.
Mm-hmm. And so, sometimes I've had to get up there and say XYZ, and that's not that it's not my job, but it's not what I'm experienced in, so I'm just winging it.
Yeah.
Anything
so yeah, do make sure you have an MC.
Do what?
So yeah, so do make sure you have an MC in some capacity.
Yeah. Anything else, do's and don'ts?
I'll say, just kind of sort of recapping a lot of stuff we went over. Do make sure that you are clear with your expectations with the DJ when you're going to book of what they can provide, what they can't. Again, sort of that pros and cons of a solo operator versus a multi-operated company where there's multiple people. See what kind of stuff they can have, what kind of add-ons they have available to sort of elevate the production of the event. If you're running a really big affair, or making sure that they're going to cover you on all the audio needs that you might need for speeches and toasts and the ceremony and all that. Don't just trust that because they exist that they do all these things, because every business is different. They've all got different things that they do and specialize in.
Mm-hmm.
And then say, of course, do make sure that they have an online presence. They're a real company. They're established. They're well reviewed, and they've got that insurance.
Yeah. I think one of the things that always concerns me when I'm looking at vendors is when they only have a Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A real business should have an actual website and have multiple listings in a professional manner, whether it be Google or Wedding Wire or The Knot, or you should have multiple ways to verify that they're a business, not just the Facebook. And I think that's true not just in the wedding world. I think that's kind of true in general, but yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna throw you on the spot a little bit here, Sean. What is your favorite thing about a wedding?
Oh, my favorite thing about the wedding. I would say, honestly, that ties in a lot to like some of that first thing that we talked about. That's the creating the moments.
Mm-hmm.
I like the sort of best feeling as a DJ and entertainer is when you can take a crowd by surprise in sort of the best way of just like getting that reaction where everyone's just like, woo, like they, maybe it's a surprise song that like really fits the moment, or you do an activity that just, out of nowhere kind of gets everybody involved. We love doing a group photo where we have everybody on the dance floor, snap a couple pictures, and then after the last one, throw in a big dance song, and everyone's like, oh, well, we're already out here. Let's dance, have some fun.
Yeah.
Doing some stuff like that, finding those little moments. That's like very, very fulfilling as a wedding DJ when you can just see that reaction, that joy and positivity in the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really sweet. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for taking your time to come live with me today, and I'm sorry about all the complications.
That's okay. Facebook's going to be Facebook.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me.
Do what?
I said I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thank you. I hope today was helpful for everyone on their journey in determining their DJ and entertainment needs. Next week we will be talking about cake. So yum, yum, yum. I wish we could be tasting it while we're talking about it, but we can't. So until then, please comment live and or replay if you're watching this later. Again, all the comments help us stay relevant. And maybe share something you learned today. We'd love to hear what you learned today. If this was helpful to you, or what maybe you have a question, please put a little comment in there. We'd love to see that. Thank you so much for joining us all today, and we will see you next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.